Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Lock Shop. Nielsen and Huss back with you once again, part of the Nielsen Media Coolbet Network. If you've not yet signed up for an account at Coolbet, no better time now. World Cup betting coming up. Got the Grey Cup coming up. Obviously, you got NHL, you got NBA, and NFL. And we'll be back with a Thursday night NFL episode tomorrow. We'll have our best bets on Friday. We'll have our official Grey Cup picks on Friday as well. So you can give us a follow on Twitter at Lock Shop Bets. On all your podcasting platforms, search The Lock Shop. And on YouTube, if you've not yet signed up to our YouTube channel, go to Twitter, at Lock Shop Bets. There's a pinned tweet. You retweet that, you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you go in the mix for $1,000 cash. When we hit 1,000 members, we're going to give away $1,000 to one of those lucky members. And I did fix the notifications. Okay, so now if you have subscribed already, like if you're watching on YouTube right now and you still can't get notifications, you need to unsubscribe, then resubscribe, and the option for notifications will be there. Huss, you just went through this simple process.
Yeah, I did, and we were quite puzzled. We almost needed to have to bring in the CTO of Winnipeg Sports Talk for some consulting, but we can't afford that because we're giving away $1,000 to one of our first 1,000 subscribers. So we do have all that. But yeah, and obviously people know with the Lock Shop, subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn the notifications on because as you know, we normally have a pretty regular schedule, but often with especially the next couple of weeks with me being at World Cup, Dusty's sked. Sometimes it'll be at a different time. At least you'll know when we are live if you want to get into the chat and, kind of converse with us and other Lock Shoppers. So certainly the best way to get that done. And Dusty, I think that in the long, illustrious history of the Lock Shop, this may be the first ever episode where we don't make an official pick.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk Grey Cup right now, discuss some line movement, but we're going to wait until Friday to make our official pick. And Friday is always the biggest show of the week during NFL season. We'll hopefully keep the best bets run rolling, but we'll also make our official Grey Cup pick on Friday's show, along with our 4 best bets in the National Football League. But it is interesting right now. We talked about where this line would open, 4.5. A lot of steam right now on the Bombers. And I think a big part of that is all the reports that say Zach Collaros will be able to go on Sunday. No question that he'll be able to go. Although we were breaking down Zach walking off of that plane last night in Regina, like the Zapruder film, trying to see how he is.
What did you think? Like I thought there was like a slight limp once he got to flat ground. What'd you think?
I thought the same thing. Listen, at the end of the game, if you would have told me that was the way he was going to look coming off the plane in Regina, I think we all would have taken it. Certainly knowing that he's going to play for sure. But I do have some reservations as to how mobile Zach Collaros is going to be. And, I was talking with Derek Taylor a little earlier for a Winnipeg Sports Talk today. And when you think about Zach Collaros' signature plays for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, it's often been the way he's been able to buy time, get out of the pocket, use his mobility to find the likes of Nick Dembski and Dalton Schoen and Greg Ellingson. If he's not able to do that, I do think that could impact the Bomber offense quite a bit. That being said, this is outdoors. This is November. We saw the way the Bomber offensive line and the Bomber running game with Brady Oliveira leading the way dominated the British Columbia Lions, and I do think that game plan will not be far off when they kick off on Sunday afternoon. You would all surprised first of all, were you surprised that it opened at 4.5? And right now at Coolbet, we're seeing the Bombers -6 at -106. Argos +6 at -115 right now.
I wasn't surprised that it opened at 4.5 because I think that's a pretty good number for it. I am a little surprised that it's already moved all the way down to 6, Huss. I guess the question that I have for you is, does it stay at 6 or does this thing continue to move in that direction?
I can't imagine it gets much higher than 6.5 if it does go that way. I mean, I think if the Bombers are laying a touchdown, I think there'll be enough action on the Argos coming the other way
to keep it there.
Back.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, I think this is probably where we are at. But again, and this is part of the reason why I want to hold off on making our final pick with the number until we get to Friday, because it should be closer to what it'll be on game day. We'll have a little bit more clarity. But we'll also know sort of how Zach Collaros looks at practice. Now, what's interesting, the Bombers are practicing this afternoon. Tomorrow are the closed practices. So we're probably going to be basing our picks on information we get from today's practice. And I wouldn't be surprised if they let Zach kind of chill today and not do too much over the course of, the first practice of the week. So there's a lot of
intrigue. If it stays at 6, what are you doing? If it stays at 6, what are you doing?
Well, and this is part of my, why it's so tough for me to make a pick right now. I mean, listen, all year long, we've talked about the Bombers. I'm a Bomber guy. I will be wearing blue and gold wherever I'm watching it. And I've said many times on this show this year, correctly, no one ever gets rich betting against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I cannot help but remember the last few meetings, though, between these two teams. That game at the beginning of the year was a razor-thin margin, essentially a Boris Beatty missed extra point, which allowed the Bombers to win by 1. And if you go back to last year, the Argos of all the teams in the Canadian Football League through this incredible run for the Bombers have maybe played the Bombers the toughest. Now, last year's, I believe that win was Nick Arbuckle.
It was Nick Arbuckle. I called that game, and it was Nick Arbuckle. Yeah.
Yeah. So, listen, there's a lot of McLeod Bethel-Thompson, and McLeod Bethel-Thompson is really sort of a Jekyll and Hyde quarterback. When he's on, he can be on. But, we've seen the Jekyll and Hyde in the same game at times. Looking terrible in one half and then looking great. I can't help but think, though, about when Toronto went out to Calgary and played against the Stamps, and I believe it was some inclement weather.
29-2?
29-2, just an absolute beatdown right now. And there's absolutely no doubt that the Bombers will be ready. They'll be prepared. Those are the things that you can take to the bank. But I will be honest, I think right now, and as much as it would kill me to not take the Bombers against the number, I think they're going to win this game. There is a big part of me that thinks that the Toronto Argonauts have the squad to keep this close and to have it be an exciting game right through until the fourth quarter, which would be very CFL-esque. Not sure it goes to OT like last year's Grey Cup.
That was amazing.
But I'll tell you what, I think the Bombers are the better team, but it's any given Sunday. There's a reason why they play the games right now. And the Argos are a team that does make me nervous. I don't think I'm not expecting the Bombers to absolutely steamroll this club. But again, we're talking about a 1-score game with 6 points. I think that's certainly possible right now. But I'm going to spend a little bit more time looking into what's happening on the Bombers side of things, particularly with quarterback Zach Collaros, and maybe a few reports out of Toronto as well, before we finally lock it down with whatever the line is Friday around noon.
There's one thing, and this doesn't really tie into the spread, and we'll give you our picks on Friday, but there's one aspect, 100%, I know that the Bombers will handle better than the Argos. The Bombers in this game will not be rattled. The Bombers in this game will not have fighting on the sidelines. Zach Collaros is not going to get in the face of Mike O'Shea at an important moment in the season. I know that's not going to happen with the Bombers. I can't say that won't happen with the Argos. And I have a hard time believing the Argos as an underdog already. If they face any adversity and MBT gets fired up and gets in Dinwiddie's face, the Bombers are just going to pick you apart after that point. So that's the biggest advantage. You want to break this down on tape and everything, that's fine. But the Bombers have been here before. There's never an issue. There's never an issue with the Bombers, and there's been issues way too many times with the Argos this year, to the point that I'm surprised they managed to keep it together to get to this game. So they're going to have to do something that they haven't done in the past, and that's when facing adversity, everybody kind of just goes about their business. I think that's a little bit of a concern for the Argos heading into this game. So I can see why the money at 4.5 was coming in heavily and quickly on the Bombers. I'm very interested to see where that number gets to. 6 scares me. You just laid it out. 6 that's a big number for a championship game in the Canadian Football League. But I just think the Bombers have such an advantage in the way that they've handled themselves so far this year.
For what it's worth, the Bomber team total right now at Coolbet is 26.5. The over is -122. The Argos team total is 20 on the number, and the over there is -128. And the total for the game, I guess if you're looking over, I guess the closest number right now is 48, and essentially that basically speaks to all of those. Money line right now, Bombers -238, Argos plus 195. And we've even got a first quarter spread right now.
We have a bunch of stuff,
with the Bombers at -1 in the first quarter right now, and a total touchdowns at 4.5.
I do like that Bombers -1 in the first quarter, Huss. We talked about this last week. The Bombers come out and execute early almost every time. It's like when they have their first drive scripted or however it works. It's like 3, 4, 5 plays, super efficient, and they're into the end zone. We saw it last week prior to Leggio missing that extra point. I mean, I really like that. I like that number big time. That's good.
You've got some kicking props right now, number of field goals. I mean, they're actually, for this early in the week, there's plenty right now available if you want to jump on it right now. Touchdowns, we've got the game props as well, as far as total touchdowns, first team to score, last team to score. Will there be a safety in the game? That's 7-1. Obviously, you get a little bit of a worse number than betting a safety in the National Football League, and as well as what will the first score be. So it's all there right now at Coolbet. We'll have our official pick against the spread, and probably a few other props to roll in on Friday. Friday's going to be one of the biggest lock shops ever, because obviously we're going to get to week 11 in the National Football League, but plenty in the Grey Cup options that you and I will both be on. Will you be in Regina by Friday, or when are you
I'm flying. I will be here when we do our picks, and then I'm flying to Regina like 3:30 Friday afternoon, and then I'll be on my face at Spirit of Edmonton by about 11 o'clock that night. You've never seen anybody drink as many Twisted Teas as me, because I'm a big supporter of the Canadian Football League, Huss. That's why. A couple of comments on the CFL. What's that, buddy?
That's how you support the league. You got to go there, do your part as an ambassador of the CFL, and dive headfirst off the 10-meter into Grey Cup week immediately upon arriving in Regina.
Pretty much. Yeah, I'm going to be cracking Twisted Teas coming down the escalator at the airport. A couple of comments. Well, first of all, Sean and Jeff watching on YouTube, they're just going back and forth with a nice conversation. Gitch thinks Bombers win by a TD. And then on YouTube, or on Twitter, my buddy, actually, Rubes, who will one day direct the Grey Cup. He works at TSN. He's going to be the next guy to direct the Grey Cup. So he asks, and this is a good question, classic director question, the experience of playing in the -7, like the weather, when it comes to the Bombers here, Huss. You've laid it out earlier with how Toronto looked in that game in Calgary. Maybe that's another factor that keeps this line moving in favor of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers when it's all said and done. You can't deny it that the Bombers are much more used to playing in the cold weather than the Argos are.
Well, not only are they used to it, but they're built for it.
Yeah.
I mean, Kyle Walters, when he put this team together, wanted to improve the Canadian talent, which certainly more often than not, especially when you've got the amount of local guys like Dembski and Brady Oliveira. I mean, these dudes grew up playing for Oak Park High School, and, the championship game is in November in Winnipeg, outdoors. And listen, the Bomber offensive line in the running game last week, to me, was, what really put the Bombers over the top and allowed them to basically be in control of that football game the entire time. And as we mentioned, in that waxing, that 29-2 game between Calgary and the Argos, what was the weather like for that one, Dusty? Was it cold?
I didn't do that game. So I can't necessarily, I can't tell you. I was somewhere else that week. I think that was a week there was a bunch of games in the West. They brought Rod out to do 2 games, and I just stayed here in Edmonton. So
that's right. Well, I'll say this. The cold and the weather is only going to be an advantage for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and that is going to be something that Toronto is going to have to face head on and be ready for it. And listen, of course, the big guy surrounding that is Andrew Harris. And I mean, it's the juiciest story ever. Harris, we often joke that he's got a chip on his shoulder. Well, this is going to be a boulder on his shoulder when he gets to that game. And, he will be a guy that I think his energy and his experience in this, I think actually can really help the Toronto Argonauts. But we'll see about their DBs. We'll see about their receivers. We'll see about everyone else not named Andrew Harris that's not from Winnipeg and has been in these last couple of Grey Cups with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and see what they make. It will be I don't want to say a deciding factor, but listen, I think we can all agree it's a big advantage for the Blue Bombers that this game is outside in Regina. And let's quickly mention the crowd too. Like, as much as Rider fans hate the Bombers, and the Bombers, if they win this Grey Cup, will officially completed full ownership of Mosaic Stadium, having the first win in Mosaic, the first playoff win in Mosaic, the first West Final win in Mosaic. And if they win this game, it will be the first Grey Cup in Mosaic. So that's not something. But as Mike O'Shea said after the game, he's hoping that half the stadium from Sunday makes the 5-hour drive to Regina and is there loud and proud representing the Blue Bombers. And I do think we will see more. Well, last year, obviously, Hamilton had the big home field advantage. They were playing at home, and with COVID, there wasn't as many Bomber fans traveling. I think that's going to flip this year. And, you know, the neutrals might be cheering for the Argos, just an anyone but Winnipeg situation. But I can tell you, I expect at least half of that stadium to be there, repping the Bombers, and be considerably louder than people with no skin in the game.
All right, so our official Grey Cup picks coming your way on Friday. They were practice today, practice tomorrow, and then we'll lock in our picks on a huge episode of The Lock Shop on Friday. Let's slide over to the World Cup, where there are like thousands of different things you can bet on for the World Cup of soccer. Every match is already posted. And who's this? This is known soccer guy, Hustler.
I am completely turning into soccer guy. I met with the Voyageurs at the King's Head pub here in Winnipeg on Saturday. Shout out to them. They are the Canadian soccer hardos that have been following this team for years and years.
Do they refer to themselves as hardos?
No, that's my editorial. That's my editorial of it. But you know what I'm saying. There's about a dozen or so or more from people from Winnipeg coming, but they did say they're expecting about 2,000 of the Voyageurs to make their way to Qatar, which blows me away. I cannot wait to see them and see how Canada represents itself at the first World Cup since 1986. But yeah, right now, folks, if you have not taken a look at it, Sunday will be the first game, Qatar and Ecuador. Then the tournament gets going in earnest on Monday with England taking on Iran. Every single match in the World Cup right now is booked at Coolbet.com. We've got some specials for Canada. You've got group picks that you can make where you can bet order of finish, how teams will go, and of course, who will win it all, and tournament props as well. It might take you a couple hours to get through everything available at Coolbet for the World Cup, but now is definitely the time to do it. You can get some tournament futures in and then have some fun going over the games. I'll just quickly hit these Canada games. For folks that aren't familiar, we're in Group F. We started off playing against the Belgians, and Belgium is, I'm not sure what their FIFA world ranking is, but they've been in the top 3 over the course of the last year or so. They would be a team that is, well, we'll get to the overall odds. They're a significant favorite against Canada in the first game. Although I'll say this, I think it might be to Canada's advantage to get the Belgians in the first game. You're playing them in the round robin. To get them in game number 1, maybe when it takes a little bit of time for them to get together and get to top form, I don't think it's going to hurt Canada. And obviously there's going to be so much excitement with the Canadians being there for the first time. Belgium minus 192 to win that match. A draw, which would be a great result for Canada, is at plus 360, and a Canada win plus 550. The second match, that's on the 27th. Huge game for Canada going up against Croatia. And Croatia, I've talked to a few people on the show about the Croatians. They have been a power over the last few years. They had a great performance, I believe, 4 years ago. They haven't filled the funnel with as many talented young players, certainly not like the Canadians have, and their star players are a little bit older. Doesn't seem to have changed the odds very much, as Croatia is minus 130, the draw plus 290, and Canada plus 380 in that game. And then the game that you would think that Canada absolutely has to have playing against Morocco, a much closer matchup, but Canada's still a slight underdog. Canada plus 196 to get its first win at the World Cup, a draw plus 225, and Morocco plus 160. That game on the 1st of December. So if you've got a feeling right now on one of the Canada games on its own, you can jump on that right now. And listen, if Canada has any sorts of results, draws, or wins, we'll be getting really nice numbers on over at Coolbet on Canada to get a result, because they will be an underdog in all 3 of their games in the Group F.
All right, so that's a look at the matches that are already posted. And as Huss said, every single one's already posted. Then you've got your group props that you can get into, and then we've got some Canadian specials that we can get to as well. Huss, you want to dive into Group F? Do you want to take a look at some of the odds here in Group F right now?
Yeah, while we're talking Group F, and again, we've got these options for every single group, but we'll focus in on Canada's group, obviously, here in the lock shop. Belgium, no surprise, the heavy favorite to win the group, although minus 143. I kind of expected that number to be even more. But I
thought it'd be a little bit higher too. That's a Croatia thing though, right?
Well, Croatia's at plus 225. And obviously, I think people still remember Croatia. That's been good for the last little while. Morocco at 9-1 and Canada at plus 1150. The key thing for Canada is, and this is, I think, what we need to be hoping, regardless of how the results shake out, is to progress to the playoff. Belgium, minus 833. Everyone expects Belgium to be part of the group of 16. Croatia's minus 200. Can Morocco or Canada upset the Croatians and get into that group? Morocco's plus 207 and Canada's plus 295. Here is a little stat, though, for you. Let's not forget that Canada was the number one team in CONCACAF. I mean, we didn't just sneak in there. We were the dominant team in World Cup qualifying. The team that has won CONCACAF going into the World Cup, I believe, has moved on to the group, to the playoff stage in 7 of the last 8 World Cups. Now, we're in a tough group. You've got some good teams in there, but it certainly is not unheard of. In fact, it normally does happen. Whether people respect the Canadians as the true champions of CONCACAF, I guess we will see, but that is there. And then you can also bet on things like the highest scoring team in the group. Canada plus 1150 in that one. I mean, I think if you're the highest scoring team in the group, you're definitely progressing to a playoff. I think that goes without saying. Belgium minus 125 on that. What is interesting, you can also guess the correct finishing order at higher odds.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then listen, you don't want to just take you can bet the total cards or fouls in the entire group.
Corners.
The team with the most offsides, corners, shots on target, penalties. It's literally all there. I think that the numbers that people will be most focusing on, the ones that we went through with the win the group to progress to playoff, highest scoring. And then if you do want to get fancy, you can go with that correct finishing order as well over at Coolbet. So it's all there at Group F. And then Dusty, I don't know if you want to dig into the World Cup 22 Canada specials. Some of this is sort of other versions of betting some of the things we've talked about in Group F, but plenty of Canada specials, including some individual props for who will score, who will get booked, and the top scorer for the team.
Well, I just correct finishing order. I just want to throw this out there, Huss. Belgium 1, Canada 2, Croatia 3rd, Morocco 4th, 16-1. How's that sound? Right? We're not getting too carried away with Canada, but you basically need Canada to get the job done against Croatia in that spot at 16-1, because the rest of it will fall how it should. If Canada beats Croatia, Croatia's going to finish 3rd, Morocco's going to finish 4th. So if you believe that Canada can beat Croatia, you get that at 16-1. That's probably the way to go in that play compared to what you would get on just picking Canada to beat Croatia in their matchup heads up.
Well, and the funny thing is, yeah, I mean, if you're thinking that it's going to be Belgium, Canada, 1-2, I mean, that's sort of what you're betting. You can only go one of two different ways. Croatia 3rd, Morocco 4th, or vice versa. And Croatia finishing 4th in the group, Morocco 3rd is 18-1 as well. So you could actually hit both of those sides and probably get more on your money than Canada just to qualify for the playoff. That being said, what do we have for Canada finishing first? Okay, now we're into the 50s. Now we're into 50-1, those sort of things. Canada first, Belgium second, Morocco 3rd, Croatia 4th is 50-1. And well, listen, 200-1 if you think the Belgians are going to shit the bed and finish 4th. I'm not sure I'm willing to get that aggressive with pre-World Cup tournament wagers at this point. But as far as the Canadian players go on this, on the top score for the team, Jonathan David 2-1 plus 200, Kyle Larin, the other striker, plus 450. Alphonso Davies, 5-1, and Davies will probably play either in an attacking role. I mean, obviously he's a defender for Bayern Munich, but with that sort of talent on a team like Canada, John Herdman's going to use him in a position to be making things happen. Junior Hollett, the guy that I really do like, and I think is very underrated on Canada, is Tajon Buchanan. He's 11-1 to be the top scorer in this game. But in fact, I almost prefer, never mind going with team top, team top scorer. Look at who will or will not score in the group stage. If you like a Jonathan David goal at any point, plus 120, Larin and Cavallini plus 255, Davies plus 355, Junior Hollett 300, and Tajon Buchanan plus 475. And got to give some love to Atiba Hutchinson, the captain of our squad, oldest player in the World Cup. And what a freaking moment that would be if he hung around this long, makes it to the World Cup, and actually scores. That would be 8-1. For those of you that know the team, you know what? You might even want to go like Steven Eustáquio. He's going to be playing a ton in the midfield. He'll be going up against world-class players. Minus 125 to get booked in the group stage. And as I said, you got Canada points in the group stage, over under 2.5. I really do like that one. That essentially is, can you win a game? Yeah, I mean, listen, if you just tied 2, you'd have 2 points. It would be under the 2.5.
Yeah,
over
I like that.
is minus 111 for that one, and under minus 115. There's going to be a lot of betting with the heart in this one, I think. People are going to want to have a little piece of Canada returning to the World Cup. And my God, is there a ton of options right now over at Coolbet, Dusty.
Just a couple of comments on the old YouTube chat. I really like comments in the YouTube chat. That's fun. I can't wait till we're just YouTube exclusive. We got a bunch of people watching. But Blaine Bexon on YouTube says, Alphonso Davies, most assists for Canada. And that's at 4-1. So he likes that. That's plus 400 right now. And then you, Chaz, is in comments as well and says, the fact that picking Canada to finish 4th in the group is plus 115 is wild because we can make plus money even if we're last, which is great to see as well. Oh, man, what a bad experience. Canada finished last. And I got it at plus 115. So in the end, I guess everybody's happy. So, although it'll be awesome for this nation to break down a Canadian win at the World Cup. My goodness.
You, Chaz, I don't want a piece of that dirty money. Hell no. We're going there to score goals. We're going there to win games. And we're going there to hopefully make it through to the playoff round. We'll see whether that happens. But it really is going to be
Hey, if there's one place you don't want to talk about dirty money, it's Qatar, Huss. Just saying.
hey, I don't want to be on any shit list before I even set foot in Doha right now. Let's keep these to a minimum. And as far as next week, I mean, we'll be hitting the lock shop on a daily basis here. With World Cup picks on a daily basis, I'll have boots on the ground. I'll be talking to people that really know the beautiful game, Dusty, and hopefully I can give some nice winners in advance of some of these daily games. But all the futures are there right now. Jump on a little Canada action for the fellas. And next week, Jake and myself will be there. We'll be cranking out. Make sure you're following at Coolbet Canada on Instagram, on Twitter, and I guess on YouTube as well. We're going to be doing a ton of fun content around the World Cup, obviously making picks, hopefully talking to a few people to know what the heck they're talking about, and just taking it all in as Canada's back in the World Cup. And now's the time to place your bets before kickoff in Qatar on Sunday.
Thursday night football coming your way tomorrow. We'll have an episode for you at the usual time, and then our best bets and our Grey Cup bets coming up on Friday's episode. Huss, we'll talk to you then, buddy. We'll see you later, man.
You got it, pal. Take it easy.